Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on KUTV Primetime News. And if you're just joining us, we're streaming live this broadcast on our social media platforms on Facebook, KUTV Kenya, on Twitter, KUTV_Kenya. It's also live on YouTube at KUTV Kenya Live. Now, the time for our discussion, the tics and tricks in politics. Now, the race to occupy the elective seats continues to get stiff with a few days left to the August general elections, and the blames of frustrations from the government machinery are making headlines in the campaign trails as scrutiny in the credibility of the academic papers continue. The electoral body IBC has noted that 22,120,458 voters have been registered to vote on the August 9th polls, which presidential candidate shall enjoy the ride in the wave of the big numbers to house on top of the hill to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. And that's the discussion you're having tonight. And joining me is a seasoned political analyst, Solomon Musyoki, and probably Kotonde, who shall be joining us later on. Thank you so much, Solomon Musyoki, for dedicating your time for this discussion.
Yes.
All right, and now we kick it off. So the electoral body IEBC has noted that in the August general elections, we shall be having 22,120,458 voters have been registered for that elections, and this has been noted, of course, after the audit by KPMG that 2.5 million voters. It is an increase. It is an increase by 2.5 million voters from the 2017 general elections. So, in terms of turnout, what do you see of Kenyans? Are we really expecting to have a larger turnout on these general elections, as probably you seeing the state and the situation of things?
I believe the voter turnout is going to be higher. This is the highest registration of voters we've seen. 22 million is quite a large number. I believe the voters are going to be around 1 million, 2 million above the normal voter turnout. I believe it's going to be high because of the kind of tight race we're seeing between the Azimio camp and the Kenya Kwanza camp. And we're also seeing a third force now, the Wajakoya, the fifth also coming. So I believe it's a tight race, and each of the supporters are really fighting for their people. So I believe they'll come out in large numbers to support their favorite candidates. So I see an increase in around 1 million to 2 million voters in the coming elections.
Right, and it's not really because you are saying that we think it's really a stiff competition, and it's not the two horse race as it has always been, because you've noted that there is also the Wajakoya factor that cannot be left out. But now the level of enthusiasm that comes with these elections, because during the registration process, we saw the kind of voter apathy where youths were not going to be registered as voters. They are saying that they had lost hope, in the elections of this country. So moving forward, noting that from the big numbers that have been reported by IEBC, and the tough times that you are seeing here, of course, politicians are promising better life after the general elections. We've seen today Raila Amolo Odinga promising that the cost of living shall be going lower after he clinches the house on the top of the hill. So do we think really that, this will move the voters to go and, represent their ideas, rather represent their decisions of whoever becomes the president in the August general elections?
I believe, despite everything, Kenyans are really democratic people, and they really want to cast that vote. Especially this time around, we are seeing a large number of a good number of millions of first timers. So first time is someone who has not been there. He wants to feel that that feeling of casting that ballot.
Right.
So I believe, despite the economic times, despite the people trying not to engage into political, into the political stage, but I believe people are going to vote. People are going to come out, and also the people who had the voter apathy, the youth, have actually been captured by Wajakoya.
Right.
So you realize that many of the youth who are not interested into politics are now supporting Wajakoya because they feel, they are now tired of these seasoned politicians. Right. They now want to see new faces. So I believe Wajakoya will take care of those few individuals, hundreds of thousands, who feel like, we don't need politics in Kenya. So I believe the voter turnout will still increase, and people will come out in their large numbers.
And it's really impressive, Musoki, that you're talking about the Wajakoya factor, because, looking at the patterns of how people have been voting, I was just having an experience, just a discourse, of course, with some gentlemen who voted for the first time in 2013. He told me that he was the decision he made on the presidential vote, he was voting the youthful leaders. And of course, now you're telling us that, Wajakoya has captured the interest of most of these first-time voters and, of course, the youths. And, the following from the results that we had from the population, from the census, that the youths make up 70% of, Kenya's population. And, of course, if they make 70% of the Kenya's population, and assuming that a big chunk of the youth registered as voters, do we see a situation where, Kenyans, rather Professor Wajakoya, could leverage the youth, of course, after capturing their interest and probably winning this election?
I believe Wajakoya has chances, but we see that he came into the political scene late. That is one of the disadvantages he's facing. He came late, and I believe I don't think he has the required resources to actually fight, the big fish like Honorable Raila and Honorable Ruto. So I believe he has good chances, but he's going to make a statement. That is one thing I'm sure he's going to make a statement. But I'll also allude this to a discussion we had, last time, that we were saying that if Kalonzo would brand himself, he would actually be now the third factor. But this time around, we are seeing he went back to Azimio, so we are seeing Wajakoya actually playing that role that Kalonzo did. So the best Wajakoya can do, he can garner votes, in the hundreds of thousands, or actually surprise us with 1 million votes, so that we are going to have to go to a second round. So that is actually, I think that is the best case scenario for Wajakoya. That is if the youth will really come out and support Wajakoya. It's not just a mantra. Yeah.
Anyway, maybe just to really get back to what you said, that Wajakoya came in a bit late. There's a saying, it sounds much better in Swahili, but I'll just paraphrase it in English, saying that, going to the bar earlier is not, that's not getting tipsy, like kufika mapema, sio kulewa. And looking at how the campaign trails and how Wajakoya has been, selling his manifesto to the electorates in the country, gauging from the kind of discourse and the conversations that the youths are having, because he's one man that is, talking about a plan of how the Kenyan debts will be paid. And of course, this is something practical, because among the problems that the Kenyans are facing right now is the debt burden. Don't you think if he sells his manifesto and his agenda well to the electorates and to Kenyans at large, he might actually get a chance to turn tables, and everyone just gets surprised that as votes the tally continues, we're seeing someone like Wajakoya at the top of the table?
I don't think it's possible for him to clinch the top seat. Because one, we know Kenya is a cultural, it's a cultural country. We have a lot of cultures that we hold so dear, and one of the cultures is the culture against, against marijuana, against drug abuse. So, in as much as the youth are trying to vouch for him, but the greater community is actually fighting. We've seen the bishops coming and telling people, this is not the right way. So we are actually a country that is based on Christianity and Islam, both of which are really against the legalization of marijuana. So in as much as it's going to get support, I believe it is not going to be enough to actually clench, because this time around I believe we're going to see the winner going with around 7-8 million votes. So with him coming for a few months, probably, I don't think he's going to clench actually 8 million votes or 7 million votes.
Maybe just to intercept you on that, because when you're talking of the kind of pattern of how Kenyans vote, and of course saying that Kenyans is a religious country, of course the religious leaders have a big impact on how Kenyans make their decision. And Wajakoya actually responded to the Catholic clergy lyrics, saying that before they criticize his manifesto, they should read it, they should comprehend it and understand it before actually, criticizing this. And then there is also the theme of change. Change is inevitable in every dimension of life. There is a pattern, there is a way how Kenyans used to vote in the past years, and factoring in the theme of change. Don't you think probably Kenyans will probably, change with the changes and, make a decision out of the religious way, out of, the ethnic way of voting, and vote based on ideology, based on something, that could revamp the economy? Because I don't want to say that is the only way, because other, of course, presidential candidates are having, a discourse on how they want to make lives for Kenyans better. But for Professor Wajakoya, he gives a simple way and a simple standard of how, the debts can be paid, and, Kenyans having a lot of money, of course, through, farming here and there. Like, what do you see really of these Kenyans probably changing the changes on this?
I think one thing you must acknowledge is that when you ask about Wajakoya is mostly known in these urban towns. That's when you know Wajakoya. If you go to the village and ask the villagers about Wajakoya, no one knows about Wajakoya. And we know that votes are everywhere. When you go to Marsabit, when you go to any Tharakanithi, down there, the different places, you'll see that the people who actually know Wajakoya are the people who have had access to social media. But actually, there's so many votes. Actually, most people who vote are those mama bogas and those boda people who don't have social media, you see. Right. So those people, I don't think he's going to convince them with the little time span. But probably given a longer time span, if he had started probably 3 years prior to this, I believe he will have a greater chance to clinch the top seat. Yeah.
All right. Now, away from Professor Wajakoya, actually, now let us delve into the politics of the recent times. Just yesterday, where we had the Jacaranda rally, and we saw what ensued there. We saw the Kenya Kwanza, of course, were holding a rally there, and the chaos that erupted right there. They were blaming that this chaos might have been caused by supporters of the Azimio coming in to interfere with the campaigns that were organized there at the Jacaranda rally. And of course, you have seen the pictures. It's in the public domain. The pictures of people who are hurling stones, throwing stones at the deputy president. The kind of branding they were having is the same. It's more or less the same as the people who are providing security to the deputy president. And so what really do you make of this, Musioki? Because others have claimed that this was just to seek public sympathy. It is something that is because Babu Owino, who was being accused of this, he said that this was a game that was orchestrated rather by the Kenya Kwanza to seek public sympathy. What do you make of this?
One, I don't believe that is the ways of Honorable Ruto. His politics, those are not his politics. They're actually more of Honorable Babu Owino's politics. Babu Owino is a politician who thrives really in chaos and violence. And I believe that and it starts from the morning whereby we saw lots of police being taken there. We saw armed police. The question is, that chaos started at that point. So we cannot say that Honorable Ruto or His Excellency Ruto orchestrated the going of police officers there. So that means that already this is not what his plan. And when you look at the orchestration of the whole ordeal, you'll see that it is actually not Ruto's work. I believe there's a possibility, but the chances, my bet is on this was works that were done mostly by Honorable Babu. I cannot say it is Honorable Raila per se, but for Honorable Babu, I'm actually sure that he was involved because, it is his area and, it is his way of politics, of which we understand, but we're actually saying it is not the right way of politics. And, things need to be done.
Now, of course, investigations are underway, and probably let's hope that the authorities will come out clear on who orchestrated this, because in these campaign periods, what Kenyans need mostly above anything is peace. and harmony. Now, there is another issue, of course, even as we are headed to the general elections, is the integrity of the leaders and the authenticity of the academic papers. And of course, we saw the dispute resolution tribunal that was focusing on the case of the Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, and of course there was also Wavinya Ndeti, who were cleared to run after upholding the validity of their papers. And so following the whole process, because we saw how everything everything was happening right from the beginning, Sakaja was cleared to run for the gubernatorial seat, and then his academic credentials were then revoked, and then later on again is given a green light to run for this top seat. So really, what do you make of the authorities and of course the electoral body that is supposed to validate the authenticity of the academic credential of the people, rather the contestants of these top seats?
I believe what is being done is right. It is actually time that Kenya and Kenyan leaders, stand their talk and they walk their talk. And we are saying that it's time, the other day I told you that most of these politicians have skeletons in their closet. So this actually shows you, the kind of things that most of them have issues. Most of them, right now we are seeing so many leaders being questioned of their academic qualifications. And you imagine someone who has been in power for more than 10 years, for 15 years, having no degree qualification. It is actually a shame to us as Kenyans. Right. So I believe this is the right way to go, to question in at each and everyone's academic qualification, but the question comes selectively. There's where we go wrong, because the history of Sakaja is someone who has been mentored by His Excellency, Uhuru and TNA. Right. So if there were these issues before, I'm sure these people knew. If there were issues before, that is a big if. So if they knew it and they kept silent and the guy was nominated and he was a senator and they now want to raise it because he's now in another camp, that is now where we go wrong. So we're saying it is right for us to question our politicians. I actually believe that is the way to go as Kenyans, because without that we're not going to get out of this economic crisis. We're not going to get out of this situation we are in as Kenya. So it is the right way to go, but let's not criminalize the whole process. Let's not be selective. Let's be objective.
Right. Now, maybe leaving out the politics aspect out of it, because you're seeing this electoral body, it actually, Senator Sakaja is not someone who is new into politics. He vied for the senatorial seat. He was cleared with those academic papers, and then just on his ambition to become the next governor for the county 047, he was given a green light. He was cleared early, and then his academic papers now later on being revoked, and then it's still the academic papers that he was presenting, because we believe that he did not get any other credentials, because he was cleared, given the green light, revoked, and then again given the green light. So should we really also question the electoral body and all the authorities that are involved in validating these academic papers as well? I believe
for the first time IEBC is doing a good job, because when you look at the whole case, you'll see that IEBC it's dismissed on the grounds that it doesn't have the legal capacity to actually certify if this person to actually revoke it, and they said the complainant came late, right. So which is very right legally, and I think IEBC was right, but the question of where the real question lies, it is that at the Commission of the University Education, because they've actually given a green light to this person to vie in 2017. Right. They gave a green light in 2022, and just right now they're saying that things are not right. So I actually feel that that body really has questions and really need to be looked into by the relevant bodies. Right. But when you look at the IBC, I believe the tribunal committee has actually done its work, and I believe it has done a good job, because it is okay to question. But when you look at the whole case and how they dismissed it, it was actually very correct legally.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, when you ask this rather to the layman, the hoi polloi will tell you that there's no way you'll tell most Kenyans, probably those who are the grassroots level, those who are in the up country, that the whole issue is not and only IBC. It also engages the CUE, of course, in validating these academic qualifications. So this again raises questions on the credibility of the election results, because this is where the biggest stake is. The IBC is expected to deliver a credible election, and of course following on what has been happening with the leaders that were cleared, revoked, and one or two things happening. Do you think Kenyans still have hope and faith that the elections will be credible, so that this will give them hope to turn out in large numbers, to go line up, of course, to make the decision on the ballot?
I believe so far so good. And I personally, this is the first time I'm actually having confidence in the electoral body. I believe IBC is doing its best to actually have a free and fair process. We know that election is a process. It's not just on August 9th. It's a process. And when you look at the process keenly, you see that all the procedures, all the protocol are observed. And I believe they're going to try their best to actually bring out a very clean, a very free and fair election. So I actually urge Kenyans to come out in large numbers. I believe our vote is going to count.
Right. And probably as we wind up this discussion, you've told us earlier of how you're seeing the presidential race, how tight it is actually, because we are seeing, of course, we have the Kenya Kwanza team, we have the Azimio team, and of course we have the Wajakoya factor in here. So as an analyst, looking at this whole political scenery, how do you see the end game being here?
The end game, I think it's a really tight race between Honorable Ruto and Honorable Raila. It will actually, on who wins, it will actually depend on what they're going to do in the remaining months. We know there are very, very few months remaining. So it will actually depend on the secret cards they are holding back up their sleeves. So it is actually that is going to determine. We've seen the recent poll saying that Honorable Ruto is at a better position than Raila. In the past few weeks, we've seen Honorable Raila has been higher than Ruto. So it is actually, a 50-50 chance of either of the two clinching the top seat, but it actually depend on the kind of politics and politics they're going to play in the next 2 or 3 months. Other than that, the Wajakoya factor, I believe that it will depend on how much is going to campaign, how much is going to invest in terms of resources. If Wajakoya gets good resources and campaigns and traverses this country, I believe is going to get a good hundreds of thousands of votes from the youth.
Right.
So I think that is what I expect from the August 9th elections.
All right. Now, because of the interest of time, of course, a very interesting discussion, of course, you're having here. But for the interest of time, I'd want us to wind this up. What message are you having for Kenyans, the youths at large, as we're headed to the general elections?
My message to the youth is that it is time we come of age. It is time that we go away from politics of violence, politics of thuggery. That is backward, and we as Kenyans, we as the youth, as the leaders, and as the majority of this country, we need to take the front seat and actually fight the use of violence in the coming elections. Thank you so much.
All right, that's it. Politics, the ticks and tricks as you're headed to the general election. Thank you so much, Solomon Musyoki, for your time in this discussion. And without taking a very short break, shall be coming back with more. Stay with us.